there. I haven't been there yet. So Wow Magazine was the only WWF really hated because it looked better than their magazine. They brought me in on the third issue of that thing. A guy named Blake Norton was the editor, and they hired me, brought me in, and anybody from WWE would see me, they'd go, man, you got a ton of heat with Vince and Linda and Shane and everybody. And because the magazine was outselling their official magazine. So we had a situation where we tried to see if we could pay them, get some licensing to, do some stories on their guys, and they didn't want to do it. Little by little, the magazine company, H&S Media in Chicago, started doing other magazines like Mary Beth's Beanie Babies and a bunch of teen magazines, and they started running out of money. So I knew we were in trouble when they had a male organ enlargement ad in there. Yeah, and the paper quality started going down. So it was a financial situation where the H&S Media, that company, went out of business. And that was the first time I was out of a job in the wrestling magazine industry, period, the end. My wife said, what are we going to do? So I did something my buddy Joel Gertner from ECW did. I went to the local Days Inn, and I worked for 3 weeks as the, can I help you? Can I check you in? Would you like to know what your room is? This kind of thing. And people go, aren't you the guy from the wrestling? But yes, I'm doing this between, we had a mortgage. I had to go do something. So, and then I started working for a wrestling magazine company in Britain, Total Wrestling Magazine. And that went out of business eventually because they were spending too much money. They were hooked up with WOW. They were the official WOW magazine of Britain. I used to love going over to Britain. Oh, Mr. Apter, would you have a seat, please? We're having a meeting now. Oh, it's just such a wonderful feeling to be talked to with that British accent. I loved that. And then I started working for OneWrestling.com, as you all know. And unfortunately, Bob Ryder and Joey Styles, they owned it. And unfortunately, we lost Bob Ryder a year and a half ago, and now I've moved on to Sportskeeda. I don't know if any of you people were here last night when I explained what Sportskeeda is. Does anyone here want to know? Well, you know. So I found out from the editor, Raju, in India. He calls me every night at 10:30. Do you have another story for me? It's wonderful. I love him. And Keeda means worm. So if you're a bookworm, you're a bookkeeda. So this is Sportskeeda. Yeah, so that's what it means. Were any of you at the Marty party last night? Yeah, did you like my song? Was it all right? Okay. I was going to do Sweet Caroline, but I forgot that's what I came down to do there. Because I don't know if a lot of people knew that song, I Swear. But I usually don't swear. I'm clean. So anyway, any other questions? That was a very good. Did you have a question?
Yeah. What would you say?
Wait, what's your first name? It doesn't matter. No, go ahead. Thank you. I have to get about 10 people a day with that. What's your question?
No, would you say you ever got to get any wrestling memorabilia that you really think a lot of that you own?
So like the best thing I own?
Yeah.
I mentioned this last night. I don't know how many people of you were here, but Mil Mascaris, you all know who that is, right? Real name, he's a Jewish kid from the Bronx. His real name is Mel Moskowitz. He got it. All right. But he gave me the mask that he wore at Madison Square Garden when he debuted at the Garden, and I have that. I also have the mask that Rey Mysterio lost to Dean Malenko in WCW. After he got the mask back, he gave it to me. Yeah. I've got a lock of Ric Flair's hair, which you can see I'm not wearing. Ultimo Dragon gave me a mask. God, and a lot of autographs from a lot of people as well. Who's your favorite wrestler?
Terry Funk or the Great Kabuki.
Oh, Great Kabuki was great too. I talked to Terry Funk 2 or 3 weeks ago. He's not well. And I called him and he says, Bill Apter, I'm sick and you're still a pain in my ass. That's what he said to me. That's what he said. Anybody else here do wrestling imitations? Oh, wait, you have a question before we... Yes, I was in touch with Perry maybe 6 months ago. and he's still just very Saturn. He's just kind of hanging out and doing nothing. And I'm going to try and do a Zoom with him one of these days over on Sportskeeda. So, yeah, Perry was great. And what's that? Well, I will mention it to Marty. He definitely should consider that. This is my first team art. I love it. I wasn't at the first two. So, anybody else do any wrestling imitations? Any hands? I do hundreds of them. I need some help, though. Hi, Bill Apter. When are you going to put me in that rag you write? That's what he used. Well, one of my favorites, do you all remember Bruno Sammartino? And so Bruno, and he used to love when I did this to him. Bruno used to, the announcer would say, Bruno, Vince, Bruno, why do you hate Ken Patera? And he said, you know something, I don't hate Ken Patera, but I hold a lot of animosity toward him. I used to love that a lot. And then, of course, the dream baby. You see all my little black babies, the white babies, the Chinese babies, boogieing down Broadway with superstar Billy Graham and the American dream, if you will. Yeah. Does anybody do any? Nobody's even pointing to some. Oh, you do. Come on up. Let's have a hand for this brave gentleman. I'm not going to do The Rock. What's your name?
Mike.
Okay, Mike. Who do you do?
I do Randy Savage.
Let's hear it. Okay. Well, unquestionably, Randy, tonight you are going to go against Hulk Hogan one more time. What are you going to do to him?
What am I going to do to him? What am I not going to do to him? Oh, yeah.
That's pretty good. By the way, I want to let you know that there are no prizes for this whatsoever. If I have another couple of Tic Tacs left, you got it. You got it. You got it. And you can't choose your flavor. So, all right, anybody else do any other, or you want to throw some names at me? You don't have my flash drive, do you? If you hook up, do you have the song My Way? Do you have your stuff? I do a one-man show, like an hour and a half one-man show based on my book, Is Wrestling Fixed? Who knows the answer? I didn't know it was broken. Thank you. And I do a 1.5 hour show, and I end it singing My Way in like 20 different wrestler voices. But he doesn't have the karaoke track here, and I usually carry it with me.
When are we doing karaoke again, Dave?
Saturday night after the match.
Maybe Saturday. Any other songs you want to hear? I don't know who. A lot of people didn't know I Swear. Like I said, I was going to do Sweet Caroline. But I do a lot of country music, a lot of Broadway stuff. And yes, that's why we're here. This is a Q&A. You're doing the Q, I'll do the A. Okay.
My Q is, what got you involved in wrestling right up in the beginning and in the area that you chose being photographer?
Okay, I always wanted to be an entertainer when I was growing up, okay? Singing, doing comedy, and all this kind of stuff. And I was a wrestling fan back, and I told this story last night when my brother used to drop kick me off the bed, and I would see the wrestling on TV. So I wasn't big enough and my parents didn't want me to go into wrestling. So bottom line is, I used to take a lot of pictures at home and I developed in the bathroom. Does that sound okay? Okay, I used to develop pictures in the bathroom. And so I started taking pictures when I was a fan at Sunnyside Garden in Queens on a little Instamatic camera, and I wound up sending it to the magazine, and that was my in. Whether I could write or not, I had no clue at all. Stanley Weston, the boy, he sounded like this. If you can write and you can take pictures, we'll hire you. And I didn't know whether I could write. I told him I could, and it was obvious 2 weeks in I could not write. So he said to me, your problem is you're trying to use big words and be a writer. Just write the way you talk. All right? I want to hear your voice. And that was it. Yeah, yeah. Any other? Oh, my goodness. This guy is here. You know you're 5 minutes late. What, oh, I sang last night. I sang last night. Take that off. Stand up with me. Come on. You don't have to sit there. You're Double J. You can stand up with me.
You're my opening act. So what did you sing?
I sang last night. I didn't do any Barry.
Sit down here.
No, I stand up for these. I didn't do Barry Manilow last night. I did John Michael Montgomery. I swear by the moon and the stars in the sky.
Hey,
everybody,
has anybody in here seen?
For better or worse.
Enough. We just. Has anybody in here seen Jerry Lewis? Is he here today?
He could be. He could be.
Are you sure?
Is it in the contract?
You're not getting paid,
the-
regardless if it's in the contract.
So wait, if we're going to do Jerry Lewis, you got to stand here for a minute so I can do my Jerry Lewis.
This definitely isn't in my contract.
No, this is. Okay. Oh, are you one of the wrestling? He's one of the wrestling people.
See?
Ma, there's a wrestler.
Have y'all ever seen this, Jerry Lewis?
Do you like? Do you like
seen
ever?
it?
Do you hate people? Because I don't. Oh, he's yelling. Don't yell.
Shut up!
Oh, please don't yell, Mr. Sir Person. I'm going, so I'll leave and go.
Yeah.
He yelled.
I got to see Jerry Lee.
Biden.
Jerry, there's no air conditioning. It's hot in here. Is it hot in
Why
here?
don't I do the whole Q&A with you?
I would love for you to do
Jerry?
that.
No, we can't do that.
No, yeah.
No,
Oh.
you know I do 1,000 different. I'll do it 1,000 different. Well, you know I'm retired, but I'm back here to do a Q&A with you. All right, who has a question for this man?
Wait, this is the Q&A, right?
Right.
And you're
fired. Get out. Oh, I'm not in charge
and
anymore.
you're hosting it, right?
I am. Yeah.
So let's scroll.
Yeah.
I'm late. So
All
I
right,
know
well,
that.
listen,
I'm well aware of that.
the first question I'm sure everybody has on their mind is you were there at Ric Flair's last first retirement match.
I was there?
Didn't you see? Did you watch it? It was on TV. It was on Fight TV.
Was it on the radio?
Yeah, no. I listened to the play-by-play. Howard Cosell was, Mr. Flair is now bleeding. His head is totally cut.
See, guys,
You
you
remember
had
Howard
no
Cosell?
idea. You were coming to a Jeff Jarrett Q&A, and you got
didn't-
Bill Apter.
And no, I'm the A part. I don't know what the Q part is, but I'm the A part.
There you go. I
Right.
knew it. I
No,
knew it.
but
Man, I had no idea. I would have done this for free. Get to be with you, Wet Willie. We go way back.
We do. I first met you. You were pumping gas, and Jerry Lawler introduced me to you.
Yep,
Yeah.
that was my job.
It was a while ago.
Carried the bags,
It was a while ago.
pump gas,
Oh.
a little bit of everything.
Where does it say we touch?
Oh,
okay.
hey, you hadn't
Well,
learned
I
by
got this
now.
guy fondling my leg
Apter is
here.
a camera hog.
Right.
He always disguised himself as this photographer, magazine dude. He is the biggest damn
Am
You and George Napolitano and Jimmy Suzuki were all camera hogs.
Jimmy Suzuki was great because he would take the girl wrestlers and convince them.
Let's not go
to
there.
Get, no,
I don't
convince
want to
them.
hear it. I don't
Do you know
what
what I used to call him? First time he came to
I
America.
definitely don't want to go there.
No. First time he came to America, I said, "Where do you want to go to dinner?" He says, and he sounded like he had to go to the bathroom. He says, "I want to go to Bennigan's and have mozzarella cheese stick." and so to this day, we still call him mozzarella cheese stick.
I love it.
But welcome. We've been waiting for you to come here.
I apologize
Let's have a big
for late.
hand for Double Date Jeff Jarrett. Would you like a Tic Tac or two?
What now?
Fruit Adventure. He doesn't know about Fruit Adventure Tic Tacs.
No, I would sure love some unsweet iced tea if anybody's in here.
Yeah,
wants
and a
to
Diet
intervene.
Coke if you wouldn't mind.
I
Whoever.
would love an unsweet. Nobody's in here. Okay, that's okay.
All right, so we'll do this in different voices. Hi, Jeff Jarrett. So you were at that match with Ric Flair? Well, Tommy wants to
You
know.
sound like a Paul Heyman doing a Tommy Rich.
That's right. We're the same religious background, so it's the same thing. It's the way it comes out.
Just a few LBSs off, but
Yes,
go ahead.
Yes, but no. Tell us about that night.
What would you like to know? 'Cause
Well,
it
you
is,
were in the. You were in,
it has been. I may flip the entire. I don't use the word script. I'll flip the entire page. I may be asking questions because, man, going into it, I knew that there was mixed emotions, and I'll just say that mixed emotions
Okay.
with it. Coming out of it, there may be more, and some people. Well, if you were there live, you have an opinion on it. If you watched it on, and that goes without saying.
two different things.
Well, you can watch SmackDown tonight or be there live tonight, and
Right.
you would have two different opinions. I get that. But some people watch the same event, and, man, there are some really, truly mixed emotions about all of it.
Yes.
And so I find that fascinating. I guess that would be my first comment. And I'm sure in the room we probably have maybe some polar opposites. I just kind of find that fascinating. But I was taught at a very young age from my grandmother, one of your favorites,
Yes, she was. She was.
that you always have that, but the wrestling fan at the very core is passionate about one side of the fence, the other, and thank God they are.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. One of the comments that I heard, and of course I watched it, and it was amazing at his age and what's gone on with him physically, where he almost died a few years ago, that he even attempted this, but that's Ric Flair. But it was amazing that one fan said to me, you know, Jeff Jarrett looked like he was the younger Ric Flair in that match. Have you heard that?
Do I take that as a compliment or
yes,
not?
yes. No, that's
because a young Ric Flair, there's two. I'm kidding. I'm totally kidding.
No, have you
that's
heard
a compliment.
that, though?
No, I hadn't really heard that. I think, again, obviously being in it is completely different than watching it. Yeah. But I have learned this word, and we've heard it for years and years and years. But expectations, I think everybody in their mind had a completely different expectation going in. Yeah. And this room is probably, specifically Charlotte, specifically, I don't see many young folks in here. There's a few. But they do remember Rick, the glory years.
Yes.
And we don't like to remember, nobody likes to remember Fat Elvis. Everybody likes to remember
Gorgeous Alice.
Yeah, exactly. And I totally get that. You can't kill a memory. Dutch Mantell used to ingrain that in my brain, and I believe that. But the expectation of what did you expect is something. And then to kind of get right down into it, and hey, folks, I've got a podcast, drops every Tuesday. It's a quick little cheap Mick Foley plug.
Yes, I did too before you got here.
Yeah, but anyway, we're gonna get granular on it and really talk about the ebb and flow and the ins and outs and really dive into this. So you folks are getting the first public comments I've made, but it's really fascinating in so many ways that the expectations of so many, both inside the business and out, were so mixed. It just across the board, like the simple low-hanging fruit comment, man, Rick was really out of breath. Yeah. Yeah, no shit. Yeah. He's 73. He's 73 and hadn't had a match in 11 years.
Yeah.
I can take a 25-year-old guy here today, plug him out, and put him in a humongous, high-pressure situation and not have a match for a year, and 90 seconds in, he will not be able to spell his name.
Yeah.
It's just what nerves does to you. I don't care who you are. I was nervous. Jay Lethal was nervous. Andrade was nervous. The pressure that the three of us had on it, you think about it, it's a huge blessing. Man, we got to be in Ric Flair's last match. Yeah, think about that. Until it's over, it's not over.
What I want to ask you now is you're doing something that no one else in the business has done. Thank you very much, my friend.
Oh, man.
Let's have a hand for this gentleman.
You ain't kidding. You even got unsweet. God bless you.
And this is sweetened with Philomacopolis, however you pronounce that. Nobody could ever read the back of that thing. If I was still doing Jerry Lewis, I'd ask you a question and let this flow out of my mouth, but I'm not going to do that.
Go ahead there.
So you're doing something that almost no one has been able to do in years. You worked SummerSlam, you did the Conrad show, and you worked for the WWE. You have crossed political lines like no one has ever done. How did that happen?
Magic.
Ah! I knew there was a trick to it.
Look, that's something that when I get into discussing that, I'm really discussing other folks' business.
Sure.
But it was all...
It blended together perfectly.
Months and months in advance been discussed.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
that there was no... I'm very grateful. And to top it all off, Fox broadcast in Atlanta, Georgia, I caught the 11 p.m. I was in my bed Friday night, Saturday night, and Sunday night.
Wow.
So
amazing.
to be at home 3 nights and get to be on 3 different programs, That doesn't happen in our industry. I got big time lucky. So, yeah, it just kind of
Yeah, it's amazing because
it worked out. And also, you know, so much history in Atlanta. But I'm a huge Titans fan. Performing in Titan Stadium, I've been in that stadium. I've been in there in some September games or preseason games. It's one of the hottest fields, just the way the wind blows, and it's on the riverbank. It is really hot. And Saturday afternoon, overcast, beautiful weather. Couldn't have dreamed anything bigger than that. The Usos family, I go back a long way with.
Yeah.
I was big fans of the Street Profits when they got brought up. So that was a special deal. But again, being a Titan fan and knowing a lot of the Titans front office and social media folks, all that, that was really cool. And then to go back into the Municipal Auditorium, where arguably one of my shining matches, due to who I believe truly is the greatest in-ring of all time, Shawn Michaels. So that was somebody laid that stat on me.
Yeah.
27 years in a few days.
Wow.
That
Yeah.
praise God. I'll just say that as when I kind of wrap my head around 27 years apart. Yeah,
Yes.
I'm older than those seats in that arena.
not me.
That's the truth.
All right.
But that place has been refurbished twice in 27
Wow.
years.
Wow, yeah, I remember those days. By the way, you were talking about the Usos and the Samoan family. You didn't know that I'm a member of them. They made me a member. They're Sika, Afa, and I'm Apter. No, you can ask any of them.
Apter out of the family
They will
is
tell
what they
yes,
said.
yeah, they will tell you that. So this is a Q&A. You people came here for this. Let's have some questions for Jeff Jarrett. Well, first we'll get our refreshment man.
Yes, sir.
All right.
What I owe you?
There's no
Because,
sir. There's no
Mr.
sir.
Apter will pay you.
No sir. As in the Jerry Lewis. We've
All
known
right.
there's no sir. As Jerry Lewis would have said, it's Mr. Sir.
Okay.
Thank you. I don't want to be in the way of the camera here, so come on around here. All right.
Okay.
And your name?
Wolf.
Tell them. Come on this way.
Okay.
All right, what's your question?
Yeah, my question is, why didn't they take a longer run with you with the horseman ideal? Because I think you would have been a great horseman instead of just that one night.
Great question. Thank you.
So the Four Horsemen, and I assume you're talking about the 96, 97 situation, right? We went into, and I'm probably going to say this a lot during this 45 minutes to an hour, we went into this in detail on the podcast. Because Conrad, I mean, he's a wrestling fan, but he's fascinated by all that. And Kevin Sullivan had the idea the day I walked in and just kind of had the mindset. Rick wasn't 100% healthy. Arn had some issues. He just kind of saw the story naturally developing, and he really pushed hard for it. And we kind of dove off into the story. And then, as you know, the NWO was red hot, and you know, Kevin came to me and we had conversations. I was really happy because, you know, from Hogan, Hall, Nash, X-Pac, I mean, just right there, you're getting down, way down in that group. So I was glad that I was associated with a new foundation of WCW and where it was going. That was pre-Lex, when you know, it was early in the whole run. So I was really excited about it. And then politics derailed it, injuries derailed it. I had only signed a one-year deal. So as you get 6-9 months in, there was just a lot of moving parts going on. But, you know, I said it on the podcast a couple of times. It's funny how that started in 96 and the Four Horsemen joke worked into Sunday night. It turned out pretty well.
Yeah, it really did. Next question. Yes, stand up, nice and loud. What was it like working for your father, Jerry Jarrett?
You know what? If you had asked me that about a half hour ago, I'd have told you the truth. But since he's standing right over there against the wall.
Oh, my goodness.
Whoa!
Jerry Jarrett, everyone. This is no longer a closed set. Okay, hi, Jerry.
No, you know, Jim Cornette used to say it multiple times, But he's, you know, and he kind of wrapped it up the way Corny can in a few short, colorful sentences. It was the biggest blessing in the world and also the biggest curse. And just because it's just really tough to perform or make headway, because you're always compared not only to my father's box office numbers, but also he was the promoter. So really hard to follow in those footsteps. Maybe I'm a big believer, more so now than ever, that all things have a place and a reason. Had my father not experienced the Nick Goulas, George Goulas relationship, which ultimately cost Nick his entire business, I don't think, in a lot of ways, this may sound a little bit over dramatic, I'm not sure I'd be sitting here today had my dad not got to experience a father-son relationship in the business. Sometimes it's debatable. Maybe he went too far. But it really, really shaped in a lot of ways, because I don't think there was a wrestler that came through Memphis that didn't say, Jeff didn't really pay his dues. Jeff didn't really pay his dues. Jeff didn't really pay his dues. I think for the most part, haters are going to hate. There's always going to be a few. But for the most part, and the most important people that knew it, and I think there's three of them. I think my dad knew that he was going to make me pay my dues. I certainly knew. And then his business partner, Jerry Lawler. Lawler knew, because Lawler was in the middle of all of it as a talent and as a booker. So it was, you know, it's turned out great. It was, you know, sometimes tough, but it was certainly a unique. And when you look at all the second and nowadays third generation, and now we're, God Almighty, touching on fourth, you can really look at individuals that get into the business and don't pay their dues, because it is such a quick exit.
Yeah. By the way, a great question, great answer. I just want to say something personally to you. You sound and look better than I have seen you in ages. You really got your stuff together. Just wanted to tell you that.
Well, how
You know,
about that?
I'm very proud of what you
Do
have
I owe you
become.
money, or you owe me money?
What's that?
Nothing.
I'm not going into the Jerry. No, I just want to let you know personally that you.
I
you
appreciate
really,
that.
Yes.
Jim, I've had the pleasure of watching you when you first started out, and you guys had come up to the Louisville Gardens or gone out to Evansville.
Oh, yeah.
And back in those days when your territory was running so hot, and you're talking about paying your dues, did you have anybody that had your back? You know, some wrestlers might try and take advantage of you, because I've read those stories before about, you know, the son of either a promoter or another wrestler
Yep.
getting roughed up in the ring because they didn't respect, kind of like didn't have any respect for George.
Well, so were there any wrestlers or just? Well, I mean, for the most part, you got to kind of remember that crew that Dutch Mantell, Bill Dundee. We could probably go through several others that, you know, were in and out. But for the mainstays, they knew. And here's when you really get down into it. They knew my dad's mindset. That you know, if somebody's got to work twice on a spot show or Louisville, Evansville, it wasn't much debate. Jeff's working twice. Those kind of little things. There was a guy by the name who worked in this territory, Frank Morrell, who was a heel for a lot of years, but then he turned in, was our weekly referee. And I traveled with him for the better part of I was in the territory 7 years, day in, day out, so about 6 years. Being around him and him knowing and seeing things, and the effort and the time I was putting in the gym and trying to learn things and progressing as a worker and all that, you know, there was never, look, I don't know if you remember the program with the Moondogs. there were guys that would just said, hey, I'm out. I'm not taking the boards. I'm not doing this. I'm doing that. I had about 6 partners during that whole promo. So as far as taking the bumps and the bruises and all that, wanting to get in to do that, doing all the different miles, there was never the shortcuts and all that. And I told this story not long ago. The only guy, and look, I don't think, but there's a guy named Danny Fargo, who we were at a spot show in Seymour, Indiana. I'll never forget it. And we had a match, and he's a hell of a worker, and he literally said, shoot me off, give me a backdrop. And when I went off to give a backdrop, I bent down, and he put his boot right in my nose, and blood went everywhere, and he apologized and all that. And I often thought to myself, he called backdrop, but he came with a kick. That isn't the biggest backdrop I've seen, but it is what it is. But for the most part, to answer your question is, I never really had any of that. I just didn't. But I think they knew that I came with my work boots on every night. So. Jonathan Boyd, I can't say he cut me no corners, but Jonathan did that with everybody. That was kind of that was his mindset.
Wasn't just him.
Luke already left. Luke would probably have a few stories on Jonathan.
Yes. I did a great interview with he and Bobby Fulton this afternoon, by the way. Great feud, the Fantastics and the Bushwhackers. Next question. How about take us back to the TNA, take us back to the days of, let's say, Jarrett, Russo, Hulk Hogan.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, okay.
You got a question?
Let's go back to that day.
Which one? You said TNA, but you really meant WCW.
Right. Let's go WCW.
Any specific question? You kind of jumped up on that. I mean, that story is very, very long-winded.
Well,
but
do you have a shorthand version of it?
I'm just trying to think of the shorthanded version was, if there was ever a microcosm of what was wrong with WCW, that 24 hours just blew everything up. Hulk had creative control. Russo thought he could write the show. Man, I literally could go on and on and on and on. But me and John Laurinaitis, and we've chuckled about it. I mean, just me, Johnny, and Hulk got in a room and went over about a 15, 20-minute match with Highspots and all of that. It never, there was a lot of chess going on way above my pay grade between Hulk and really not so much Russo. Russo, in a lot of ways, did the promo, but he was, I can't say he was a pawn, but he was on that chessboard.
Yeah.
It was Hulk and Time Warner, and ultimately, Hulk won again. He did what was done that day, left, and they breached his contract, and he got a big settlement after that. I mean, it's the insanity of that day is just, it really is a perfect example of a corporate entity, which is such a everybody in here is wrestling fans. If you don't have a wrestling guy running a wrestling business, and I'm saying that with a good accent, it's not going to work out. Yeah. Suits can't run wrestling.
Yeah. Okay, next question. Somebody over. Yes.
Jeff, you came along in wrestling at a real interesting time. It was during the breakup of the old territory into the new conglomerate. And they brought you out of Memphis as a young shining star. And then, in my opinion, you got thrown into the big leagues, what I would say really quick, because here you are working the territories, and now you're in this big thing. How was that for your personal psyche, and how did that affect you as a wrestler as your character started to change?
It's funny you say that I just kind of got thrown into it. I worked almost 7 nights a week, most of the time 7 nights a week, but it's just 6 nights a week, twice on Saturday, for 6 years. Do the math. Buddy, if I wasn't going to be ready after 6 years, I was never going to be ready. When I think about the time that I came in, and as far as the territories and the weekly territories, and I've had a couple of historians, like I said, hey, really drill down and figure this out. Like, really come with the right answer. So I got beat up as a referee. Lawler had lost to Lose-Leave Town. I get beat up. My dad comes out. He does an incredibly emotional interview. You know, he lifts the band. Lawler comes out, and it sells out. I believe that's the last territory sellout. So, as Conrad likes to say, yep, I was the beginning of the end. No. But so I got into the business when the territories, now, it took 10 years just because of the infrastructure of USWA. But so coming in, and then it goes without saying, Hulkamania in '86 was red hot. So that whole Hulkamania that went through '88, '89, and then, you know, the Clash of the Champions and the whole two different products, being able to witness that, let me say this, my father being able to witness that, but not in that fire, was a huge blessing for me, because WCW came calling in 1990. My father didn't think it was the best idea. I wasn't physically there. It just a kind of different scenario. It was corporately run. So when I got to the WWF at the time, and Vince and the Double J character, when I appeared on camera, they hadn't had any new talent, so to speak, debut that had 6 years, quality years of really training ground. So to me, it set me up. You got to see some of that Sunday night if you watched. The mindset of work has radically changed through the years. So I got to witness that. If anybody's seen me in Mexico, that's kind of that. So being able to be around the territory days and hear that mindset, and then so the transition from the Attitude Era, and then, you know, I call it now we're in the streaming era, which independent wrestling is really front and center. So I think just by being around and observing, it's really set me up. Again, I go back to your question, me being, I get that from my dad. Ask me what time it is, I'll tell you how to build a watch. But you asked me about the formative years. I think me being around the territory gave me a leg up on a whole lot of folks. A whole lot of folks.
Did you ever miswhack somebody over the head with the guitar and hurt them? Always wondered that. Every time you whacked somebody with that guitar, I'm like, oh my God.
So, of course, it's happened from time to time.
Okay.
But this is kind of a funny story, and this guy that I did this to, he chuckled at it as well. But if you can think of one guy throughout my entire career that it probably wouldn't have been the best idea for this to happen, not once, not twice, but 3 consecutive TVs. And the second one was, they all brought blood, and they all brought pretty big gashes. But the second one was like, oh boy. And he did move a little bit. But the one guy that you would go, oh man. Tensions were a little high, not as high as everybody thinks, but that happened me and Kurt Angle.
Really? Wow. Wow.
At TNA
yes,
in 2000,
tensions were high.
In 2010, it's one of those things, and you just go, "Oh, hey man."
I'm not going to say that you remember this for a lifetime, but no, I'm not going to say that.
Jerry Lee is anyway.
Right.
No, but we chuckled about it.
Yeah.
We laughed about
That's
it.
great.
But
That's great.
yeah, it happened 3 consecutive times.
Really?
Yep.
That's some absolute. Did he ever think, like, by the third time, what are you doing?
Anybody that I ever had even a scratch, I said, well, we got that out of the way. Next time, it's just a sting. You'll be fine.
Yeah.
Not that one. 3 in a row.
All right, next question. All the way in the back over there. Gentlemen.
Wow, so you were at that house show run. That's amazing. So in October of '93 is when Double J vignettes started. I started actively on the road in December. Poughkeepsie was my first live TV. But in '92, you got to remember the steroid era, a lot of moving parts back that time. My dad was in constant conversation with Vince, and you remember Mo and Mabel. There was a Well Done. There were several talents that were working in Tennessee, the USWA, that were going up and getting start dates and all that. So there was a talent exchange, and they just decided to put me on basically a house show run. I worked with Barry Horowitz. I worked with Rick Martel. I worked with a couple of different folks just to kind of really it was for Vince and others in the office. Let's see what he looks like. Let's see him live. And I worked babyface, and Vince immediately said he's a heel.
You know, you mentioned babyface, and I'm one of these guys from the old school where people in the business said that. But now fans come over to you and say, "Oh, you babyface or you heel?" What's your reaction of the way the business changed? Because you came from your dad's generation of that was sacred. You don't say those words outside of the business. What's that like for you?
I don't know what kind of what kind of answer you're expecting, but I've got 5 kids.
Okay.
And I say that to say social media has opened up the world. It's not just our industry. And so that's since about 07, 08. Go back another 10 years, and we know the dirt sheet writers, all that kind of stuff. So when the internet came along, and you're seeing, and Bob Ryder, God rest his soul, doing AOL chat in 94, 95, and then he comes to work for us. But during that time, WCW Live, you can just see the little bit of evolution. I never got too wrapped up into it because under the belief, and I'll tell the story that my dad would do numerous times, drive-through windows, you name it. And these are kind of the invaluable lessons that you hear. Go through a drive-through, hey, y'all are the wrestlers, or you're at maybe not drive-through. You go into a McDonald's, wherever on the road. Hey, you're the wrestlers, blah, 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 blah. Hey, all that stuff y'all do, that's all fake, right? And my dad would look, and here we go again, and he'd go, oh, gosh, yes, it's fake. It's all fake. Yeah, what we do is we get these razor blades and we cut them up. But before we do that, we get in the back and we decide who wins and who loses, and then we'll have rehearsals and just going into this elaborate story. And by the time you get to the story, the lady looks at me and says, "Oh, you're full of shit." There ain't no way. Hey, I was there the night that so-and-so. Some of that was real that night. That's human nature.
Only the title matches.
That's what I'm saying is, so people are going to believe what they want to believe, what they're going to want to believe.
Yeah.
It really is that's human nature. And when look, where we're at Charlotte, so I don't have the best Charlotte sports analogies. But no matter what happens, if the opposing team, if the Titans come over here and play the Panthers, no matter what happens, you're going to have 10 bad calls that went against you. You forget the good calls. Oh, no, that should happen. That's really it's just how we, in my opinion, how we digest things. The brain goes that way. I mean, everybody, this is the thing going back to Sunday night. There were so many people that had their mind made up before Sunday night. Before the match ever took place, they had it in their mind, this is great. This is horrible. Y'all are going to kill this old man. You're going to do just all the different things. But it is. I think it's human nature. So going back to your question, Bill, the terms, all that kind of stuff, for those who believe, no explanation is needed. Right. Those who don't believe, no explanation will do.
Okay. Great answer. Thank you. Next question. Back there.
Where Jeff was not under a condition, it was look, and I can get personal on that and talk for hours. At that time, I was not as dialed in by any stretch of the imagination to the disease of addiction. I just wasn't. I knew Jeff had a problem. That night, I was not just furious. I was kind of off the rails. That how in the hell can you let that guy go on camera? Oh, he didn't appear that way. I don't buy that. I had got done for the night, Orlando, if you guys have been there or not, Doubletree Hotels right across and we did so many tapings of that. I'd already got my stuff and gone to back to the hotel to eat. And that's when I got the call, get over here. And by the time I'd got over there, all that. So it's a very, it's sad, but it's truly a consequence that, you know, people are going to have heart disease and heart attack and die. You feel really bad. People are going to have cancer. You got to take your leg off because there's sympathy. People have the disease of addiction. They're a drunk and a worthless piece of crap, and they should be shot and killed. It's all a disease. So that was one of many of Jeff's consequences, and he takes full responsibility. He's in a much better place and getting better and better and better as we speak. That's really what matters, but that was a really, really unfortunate night. And to me, and I've told people, Jeff was completely guilty at the top of the list, but I can go into about 4 or 5 other folks that were incredibly guilty for that kind of scenario to happen.
Okay. Next question. Gentleman all the way on the aisle.
One of my favorite clips to watch is back, I guess, I'm horrible with the dates, but it's probably 89, 90, with the little feud you have with Eddie Gilbert, where, and then Eddie Gilbert, you know, he comes down, he brings out the shoe and takes you out with it, and then Lance is standing over there and he's going, stop, guys, stop, you know, trying to separate the two. Do you have any memories you can tell us of working with Eddie? And kind of, I'm not real sure where it went after that point, but worked with Eddie and his father and
On Memphis TV, he literally liked to choke to me to death one day. I was actually wearing a tie, and he pulled the wrong way, and it was, but no. You know, when I look back, he's the first guy he's the first guy. Eddie liked to wrestle. He liked to, hey, Jeff, we're in a spot show. We're going to go on next to last because we don't want to, I'm like, okay, Eddie, we're advertising the main event. No, we're going to go a 30-minute Broadway and then ask for 5 more minutes, and then you're going to slip one over. And I'm thinking, Eddie, we are in Pocahontas, Arkansas. Are you sure you want to go 30 minutes? And I didn't say that. I was just like, yep, okay, Eddie. But Eddie really liked to wrestle, and so especially when a guy like me at my stage of my career, I listened to every word. And so Eddie really loved the business. He taught me some things, little simple things in the ring. Again, you know, gone way too soon. Eddie was a thinker. He obviously liked to have his good times, but there was really never a time that he'd go, hey, come here, let's talk about this. He'll talk you to death on creative concepts and ideas and all that. Me and Doug, his younger brother, buddies to this day. But that angle that we talked about on TV, I can remember him saying, is that the one where a lot of juice, is that what you're talking about with the shoe? Yeah. Yeah. I got a pretty good memory. Lance Russell came back during commercial break and was like, is he all right? Yeah, because I was in the bathroom cleaning up, but yeah.
Great. Next question. Gentleman back there. Our Randy Savage imitator.
Dig it.
Before you got here, we did a imitate.
Yeah. So you have to ask the question in Macho Man.
Yeah, would you mind doing that? Go ahead. No, you can do it. Come on. Go for it. I'll give you.
That's all right. Go ahead. Go ahead.
2 extra Tic Tacs.
You go into the Attitude Era, your character gets more hard-edged, it's a bit of a departure. Is that something you're ready for, or they have to talk you into it?
No. So the Double J character, you know, we'll call it 93 through 95, 96, and then came back in 97. When I came back, and this is a lot of times it gets kind of lost in the translation. If you'll remember that first night back, I cut the promo, Steve Austin didn't think it was very kind. We've talked our differences out. But that Jeff Jarrett that came back was not Double J at all. That was a different edge. I had talked about Mongo and Ahmed, and it was very much in tune with the Attitude Era. That got derailed, like really quick. My wife got sick, which further derailed it. And so hey, we're going to bring Jeff back. What are we going to do? And then that's kind of where, hey, let's bring Double J back and Tennessee Lee and kind of go all that way. Me and Robert Fuller had the conversation. Porn stars and pimps and DX and it did not fit the attitude. It was anti-attitude, and we knew that it didn't fit the mold. So when it had run its course and they had let Robert go and knew all that, I could not wait to get the haircut and head down a different path, because that's kind of what in '97 of October. I was there the night the Montreal screw job and all that went down, but I had come out on Raw that next night. Let me be clear. I wasn't obviously on the Montreal show, but I was in the building. They had me come up to that. So anyhow, no, I might have been the first one ready to take the character in a different direction.
Who picked Brian James, as the roadie? Who chose him for that?
So, obviously, the Armstrong gang had been around. And ironically, a lot of people don't know this story either. Vince had an idea about a singing cowboy and actually had wanted Brian's older brother, Stevie, to be a singing cowboy. Yeah. And it didn't work out creatively and talent-wise, not his in-ring talent, but it didn't jive up talent relations. So, again, they were looking for new talent. Max Payne, Man Mountain Rock, and Brian had a relationship from Atlanta. Brian obviously had different relationships. He had done a little Smoky Mountain. So he had navigated his way through and got a tryout. They knew he could sing, and so they brought him up to Lowell, Mass, and they actually said, all right, sing. Little did he know that when he came out and sang literally at a table, little did he know that right there on the spot, they had in their mind Bruce and Vince. I mean, he's the roadie. Yeah. So they had it in their mind because of the route we were going with the character.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. We have room for about one or two more questions. This gentleman over here. Yeah, working with Toby Keith.
He wants to hear this story.
Yeah.
Toby's a good bud. You're talking about the suplex at TNA probably, right? So Toby is a country boy from Oklahoma, former football player, but he's maybe one of the most fascinating people. He's definitely in the top 5. Singer-songwriter, but really an incredible businessman. But knowing the launch of TNA and to try to make some noise, and we had a relationship for about, 5, 6, 7 years. I went up to Evansville, Indiana, and pitched him the idea. I said, hey, we're going to have this show, and we're kicking off a company, and da-da-da-da-da, and I'd like for you to sing How Do You Like Me Now, or one of your hits that you feel comfortable with. But I said, I'll interrupt it. And I just kind of laid the pitch out for him. This is the part of the story that you can't write. So I just kind of laid out what it was going to be. And I said, then you come back, and I said, whatever you want to do. I said, best case scenario is you get in the ring and eliminate me. He's like, no, I got to do a move and all this kind of stuff. So he has watched wrestling. He's obviously appeared on WWE through the years, and wanted to. He loves wrestling. So anyhow, Evansville, I don't want to say is the first, but it was one of the first 5, 6, 7, 8 places that he had ever played Angry American live. So that was in whatever, let's just say February, March, April of that year that we debuted in June. So him debuting that song in front of a live audience, pre-radio release, all that, and the reaction that he got live, they knew it was not just going to be big, it was going to be enormous. So it's funny how he did it. I watched him do it live. It was a brand new song, literally. All that, and the roof came off. So we always thought it was unique that there it was 3 weeks later, and the song had gotten so hot. He was actually invited to play at the White House June 19, 2002. That's a true story. And he got to tell the President of our United States, I'd love to be there, but I'm previously committed, not to a concert, but to a wrestling event.
Isn't that great? That's great.
And
What's
he
your
showed
favorite?
up.
What's your Toby Keith song? What's your favorite Toby Keith song?
Oh, wow.
So many of them.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. That's
Mine
Bullets
is
in my gun. Bullets in my gun.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there's a couple of
See,
them.
I love his ballads. He's got that, you shouldn't kiss me like this, and that's the song. We have time for, I think, one more question. Do you ever watch on there? I just want to see.
6 minutes.
6 minutes, okay. You had already asked a question, so I need someone who has not. This Goldberg look-alike over here.
Well, first of all, I got to tell you, when it comes to all of this, if I didn't know Conrad like I do, I completely bought everything, all the podcasts you guys were doing, going in it. I bought it.
What wasn't there not to buy?
It was beautiful. But, sometimes when you get this hate, you got to suspend that disbelief, and I was able to do that and just go, damn, these guys hate each other. But I wanted to close this. I know you don't have much time, but I would like to hear a good Owen Hart rib story from you.
Oh, yeah. Owen Hart rib story.
I'll say this, Sunday night, after the match, I'll get emotional. Brett was in Rick's dressing room, and Brett brought up, he said, because Brett, being Canadian, and he was here today, I know, and look, he joked, and he got to sit next to my dad during the match, but Brett and me always had this very, in a lot of ways, unique relationship. We bonded multiple times one night in Germany that went on through the morning. But anyway, I'll leave that there. But he would always joke about Jackie Fargo and Strutton and Handsome Jimmy and we'll call it the cartoon in his mind, all this. But he also knew that, hey, Jerry Lawler, ain't nobody had a heat on him. The Hart, Brett is an excellence of execution and do all that. But the Lawler-Hart feud, to me, was legendary. And what made it legendary, in a lot of ways, was Lawler's mouth, just point blank. So Brett complimented the other, Sunday night, and was just like, Owen was in the building. He would have enjoyed all that, just all that. So I always try to leave the rib stories to others because there's so many of them, and I've told the Hacksaw Jim Duggan one, and Owen just had the most none of his ribs were mean-spirited. Right. And the art of doing that, but really having folks want to kill him, that's a real art. And you have to be able to rib yourself. The easiest one, a hot 95-day. We drove from Las Vegas through the mountains, a 6-hour limo drive. And Owen didn't want to be in the back. Some stuff back there he didn't like going on. But Owen controlled the temperature gauge. And let's just say going through the desert with the heat full blast and the doors locked and the sunroof locked and all that and people pounding on the sliding glass, and Owen would crack it and say, hey, guys, I don't want to let any of that cool air back here. He just was relentless. And it wouldn't be like for 15 minutes. Like you finally gave up and go, we're not pulling over. He's going to ride this out. And it just, Owen's sense of humor it still lives on. It's priceless. I'll leave you with this. Because Brian was kind of new, Road Dogg was a little new in being around when we were on the road on that. These are roadie days. And this is when Brett and Owen were anyway, Owen would get at a rental car place, hotel, no matter where it was, he would engage with the conversation, and then he would sit there and make sure he had a little bit of audience. He would get San Bernardino's. He would get the other lady to, will you spell that? I don't know. How do you spell this? And I've told this story, but he would get anybody to start spelling, and then when they would get fumbled, they'd say, hey, Brian, you spell. And Brian was like, me spell? And he's hiring the kite at the time. I'm like, what? Anyway, just a little simple dialogue, but Owen had a great sense of humor.
All right. That was a great final question. Thank you all so much, but let's thank, if you wouldn't mind standing.
Thank you all for having me. A lot of fun.
Jeff Jarrett. Thank you for doing this. I need you for 2 minutes. 2 quick things. Raju told me to thank you for the...
Thank you all very much.
He told me thank you very much for... I need to do 2 minutes.